Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Jewellery Industry Voices. My name is Edward Johnson. I'm the moderator here. I've just found out that unfortunately it seems that somehow our chat is disabled. I'm trying to click a few buttons to see if I can fix that. But as many of you who join our webinars regularly know, the chat is a lovely place for people to hang out and have a chat with each other. So apologies for that. We'll see if we can get that fixed as we're running through this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, wherever you are in the world. So welcome back. Welcome back to Jewellery Industry Voices. This is the webinar series that's been hosted by CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation, since 2020. This is the third season that we're in now, and it's been 3 months since we were last together in May, when we were talking about the metaverse. And for regular attendees, you will know that in this webinar series, we look at issues of interest in the jewelry business from the perspective of industry leaders with a focused conversation around a specific topic. So today, we are examining what is required to raise demand for jewelry amongst younger consumers. Firstly, I'd like to thank our sponsors. So our thanks do go to PGI, the Platinum Guild International, Hugh Daniel and Shenzhen Liu, and all of the PGI team for all their continued support and collaboration. PGI was founded in 1975 and has specialist teams dedicated to developing market demand for platinum jewelry through different consumer and trade-facing programs in the 4 key jewelry markets that they work in, which is China, India, Japan, and the US. And we've got representatives from 3 of those key markets with us today for this event. As I said, my name is Edward Johnson, and for disclosure purposes, I work for Gemfields here in London, and I'm your co-moderator today. I'm joined by Steve Benson, who's CIBJO's head of or director of communications. Steve is in Tel Aviv. Good afternoon, Steve. How are you today?
I'm well, Ed. Pleased to see you over here. Hope you're coping with your unusual summer in London. I think the chat is working. At least it's working on my side over here. Maybe you're having a problem. I've put a message on saying I think it's working, and I see it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay.
If people could pop anything in, if they can, then we'll know if it's working if something pops in.
All right. Just a few technical words. I realize a lot of you have been on these webinars before, so you know how we work them. The webinar itself will run. Technically, we say it's going to run an hour. Typically, it runs about an hour, 15 minutes or so. We don't cut people off right at the end. We try and taper things down. You will be able to ask questions over here. We do request, though, that you put them into the Q&A box, and we will hold them off until the end. So people let the discussion between the panelists run, and then we'll ask them to address the questions. So, the Q&A box, if it's just a short question, it does offer some of the panelists the opportunity to answer a question immediately. which they may. And other than that, we'll just we'll take things as they run. So what I would like to do is introduce Gaetano Cavalieri, the CIBJO president, who's with us on the call as well. Gaetano, could you please welcome our guests and say a few words?
Thank you very much, Steve and Ed. Great to be back. Let me first thank our speakers. I want to thank them for having had the courtesy to be with us today, and obviously the sponsors. I believe that today the topic is very interesting, and I was thinking about what is the society around the world today, how the housing has changed, how the lifestyle has changed, but still during the centuries, since the very beginning, the decoration of the body has always been something towards the humanity has been attracted. I don't see why, if it's like this since few thousand years, now has to change. I don't believe it's going to change. I am very confident. Obviously, the taste, the shape, the fashion, the design is and will be different. But again, the fact to wear jewelry is something that is not only a self-satisfaction, but in many cases, let the people feel better. So I believe that from the jewelry side, we have to do our part, and obviously we have to do more and we have to do better. And I am truly confident that this perspective will be on for long time. So thank you very much.
Great. Gaetano, thank you so much. Let's get to the panelists and let's have a quick introduction and welcome to all of them. And let's start first with our good friend Zhenzhen Liu, who's the Director of Corporate Marketing for PGI. Zhenzhen, it's great to have you back with us. You've been with us a few times, and even when you weren't on screen, you were always working with me on these PGI webinars. So thank you for joining this evening. You're in Hong Kong, so it's late at night there. How are you today?
And it's definitely a pleasure to be here again. And thank you for putting this panel together. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Zhenzhen. And next, let's stay over in Greater China, and let's turn to Beijing and Han Ye, who is the lead partner for Kantar in China. Now, Han, you've had a very busy day, you were telling us earlier. Up at 5:30, you've had a big marketing event and a large banquet this evening. Thank you very much for having some energy to join us after all of that. Good evening.
Good evening and good morning, good afternoon. And it's actually my pleasure to join this. No matter how late it is, it's always good to talk about jewelry and talk about fashion. That's something that can make us all feel good.
Nice one, lovely start. Thank you, very good. And let's stay in Beijing for Mu Chen, who's the CEO of a data analytics research company, Big One Lab. Mu, it's great to have you with us. How are you this evening?
Great. Hi, Edward, and hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's my pleasure to join the seminar, and I'm here to share about data. Also here to learn because you guys are experts in the industry, and we want to see if we can build a connection between the industry and data. Yeah.
Thanks, Mu. And let's zip across to New York now, in Westchester, where Jenna Kirshner is with us from 360 Market Reach, a company that's been working with PGI on consumer research in the US market for quite some time now. How are things this morning for you, Jenna?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm very thrilled to be here and chat with all of these fantastic panelists today. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jenna. And finally, definitely not last but not least, we have the opportunity to be joined by Suvanka Sen from Senco Gold and Diamonds. Suvanka is a 4th generation jewelry retailer and manufacturer. Suvanka, good evening. Namaste. Welcome to you. How are you?
Yes, good evening. Namaste to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, share our experiences. As we all know, it's wonderful to have people from all over the world, sharing their thoughts on jewelry, on platinum, on diamonds. And, as you all know, that India is one of the youngest countries in the world in terms of population. And we're all very excited to learn from all of you and how we can, implement more ideas and share our ideas so that we can take the jewelry industry forward all across the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great. And I'm pleased to say that some random clicking of buttons did activate the chat again. And I immediately saw Gary from Pennsylvania and Norman from Hong Kong joining us. Please feel free to pop where you are, and please feel free to use the chat to connect with your fellow professionals from around the world. Just a quick note, the default settings on the chat seems to be to post just the host and panelists. That means that just me and the panelists see your messages. So if you want to just use that little toggle and make sure that your message go to everyone, then everyone can see it. If you just want to send a message to me and the panelists, obviously host and panelists is your best option. So just a quick disclaimer, if I can. Please note that none of the opinions or the information offered in this event constitutes any legal, financial, or official advice. Sibjo provides a global perspective on the German jewelry industry. So for more precise information, we encourage you to play an active part in your local trade association and seek advice relevant to your location and your business. Now, let's give you some context for our discussion today. Anyone who works to market a product knows how different it is to connect with younger consumers nowadays, especially with our increased presence online and also with the adoption of social media. Anyone born after 2007, the iPhone was introduced in 2007, has had the opportunity to grow up with a smartphone visible as an everyday accessory. And some would say it's more than an accessory, it's a necessity. So this has changed the game. So as Gen Z, or Gen Z if you're in the States, and also Gen Alpha coming after them, as they start to become digitally native adults, what does the jewelry industry need to do to connect with them? So today we want to discuss a few topics. We want to look at the current research, the statistics and the demographics on jewelry consumers in 3 markets, India, US, and China. We want to think about how is that jewelry consumer changing and what do retailers need to do to respond. We also want to explore the techniques that are needed to market effectively to younger consumers. What works best? And finally, we want to have a little bit of crystal ball gazing, a little bit of looking into the future and seeing if our panelists have any expectations or thoughts for what might be around the bend in the future. Difficult area because, of course, things change so quickly. Let's start, if we can, first, and let's turn to Zhen from PGI. Zhen, you have led a lot of consumer research organized by PGI, specifically into the modern jewelry consumer. So I'd like you to share with us, if you can briefly, some thoughts on what you've discovered in doing that.
It's good to be here. It's our retail partners in India today. Talking about Gen Zs, as Edward was saying, the young consumers, especially the Gen Z, were raised in this influenced by.
Zhen, just to interrupt, we're having a little bit of in and out on your sound. I'm not sure if it's your bandwidth or if it's your internet connection or if it's something else. just to warn you. Why don't you carry on and we see if it gets better? Would you like to carry on and we'll see if it gets better? It gets better.
Hello?
We were just having a little bit of a problem with your sound. It was going in and out. Do you want to try again?
Is it better now? Is it working?
Try it and then we'll just go for it. And if it's not good, I'll interrupt.
Okay. Yeah, as I was just saying, the Gen Z was, their opinions are highly influenced by the contents generated on digital platforms, such as online groups, communities, and social networks. And digital platforms actually blurred the boundaries between connections and commerce. So they do enjoy interactions with brands that can truly connect and engage emotionally with them. And once they feel connected, they're quicker to take actions, to click and spend and also share. And it is now estimated that the Gen Z and millennials are the two largest cohorts alive already, and they have been driving the development of luxury fashion and industry in the past few years. And they will be leading this growth of the market for the next few years as well. So we do have seen many brands have step up their efforts to attract and capture those consumers with improved product designs or targeted brand communications or novel and upgraded consumer experience. And as you mentioned, PGI is a global marketing organization to develop consumer demand for pleasant jewelry. So we do look at consumer, what do they want and what they need. We do regular cross-market surveys to monitor consumer sentiments. And we recently found precious jewelry is still appealing to those young consumers. And in particular, the majority of the young consumers believe precious jewelry remains important for them to celebrate significant occasions, to signify their emotions and relationships they cherish, and also is personally meaningful to them. And the young consumers, as I mentioned, they are driving the future precious jewelry consumption. So we have the latest March survey this year, and the results show over 60% of the consumers aged 18 to 40 in 4 markets, China, India, Japan, and the US, as you can see here from the slides, had plans to acquire non-bridal precious jewelry within the next 12 months. And this proportion is much higher than the other consumer age groups. But we don't see consumers, and especially young consumers, as just one group, because they can be segmented based on their values, attitudes, and needs. And for us, consumer segmentation provides the foundation for us to develop a brand proposition that is relevant, credible, differentiated, and single-minded. And we also design programs with our retail partners that resonate with the target consumer groups based on the brand proposition. So if you could move on to the next slide, that shows the framework, the strategic tool we're using to develop a different brand proposition and apply those insights to develop programs with our partners. And if you move on to the next slide. So for example, from the slide here, we can see even with similar social demographic backgrounds, the consumers on the left-hand side has different values and attitudes and needs towards jewelry compared with the consumer segment on the right-hand side. And definitely they will have different choices when they want to buy a piece of jewelry. So in recent years, we have commissioned a number of studies to look into the consumer needs and attitudes that are crucial for the future growth opportunities for pleasant jewelry. And we apply those insights to link source of future business for our partners. Just to give some examples, because Japan, we don't have a Japanese representative. I'll start with the Japan market. If you move to the next slide. So in Japan, we know that precious jewelry, especially platinum, is highly preferred among senior mature women, women about 50 years old. But young women below 35 were less familiar with precious jewelry and platinum. And we did a focus group study in Japan to understand the next generation of consumers. And what we found about young women is that they say they always face situations that it needs self-confidence to achieve whatever is required. And sometimes the emotional need can be filled by wearing a piece of precious jewelry. So during the focus group study, some women said a piece of jewelry straightens my back, and some said I felt a little bit more special when I wear this piece of jewelry. So we found that young women have a growing respect for self-worth and empowerment. And we leverage this finding to create a new affordable brand with our partners called Platinum Woman. Here you can see actually with the design concept that expresses the young women's inner sparkle through platinum jewelry, you know, the designs wants to motivate them and reminds them of who they have always aspired to be. And we create the brand video with you can see here a young Japanese idol to attract the young consumers in our market and create more awareness of the brands. And if you could move to the next slide. We also have here in India, Ivara here in the slides. Actually, Platinum Ivara was a long-established brand in the Indian market, but starting from a gifting brand from parents to daughters. But recently we found from our surveys that majority of the young women believe platinum is the choice of today's generation, and platinum makes them stand out. And based on findings like this, we launched this Ivara self-purchase collection to celebrate young women's expression of being unique, being rare, and being feminine. And this is combined with a integrated consumer marketing campaign called Very Rare, Very You, where you can find on the slides. So I will leave some of the examples because we have been working with Han, Kanta, and Jenna. So I'm sure they will give more detailed elaboration and examples about the consumers, young consumers in China and in the US, and also from Suvanka in India and Mu about the data in China.
Zhen, thank you for that. I really liked the feedback that you got, that platinum jewelry helps to straighten your back. You know, I like that expression. Let's start to look at some specifics then, and let's look at the US market first. It's still the largest market for fine jewelry in the world. So Jenna, if I can turn to you over there in New York, what research has 360 Market Reach done on young consumers, and in broad terms, what have you found?
Absolutely, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to showcase some of the work we've done with the PGI USA team. Just in the past few years, we've done a lot of generational research with a strong emphasis on this new wave of the young jewelry consumer. So recently we did interviews and focus groups that explored how the younger generation perceives themselves, how they perceive the relationships and marriage and love. And through those qualitative interviews, our learnings exposed that this younger generation has a more contemporary, modern perception of relationships and love than the younger generations. So we dug a bit deeper to learn what are those first major milestones when Gen Z and millennials are first introduced to the fine jewelry industry. Many are first gifted a fine jewelry piece for a graduation, a promised commitment, or an engagement. And even for some, it's just the wedding. And because of these occasions being so significant, there are certain emotions tied to them and tied to fine jewelry. So we're seeing happiness, pride, surprise, and also feelings of special, which I think Jen just mentioned as an insight from the Japan research. So we're seeing that as a consistent theme. Actually, most recently, we conducted some research with the PGI USA team exploring how sustainability is impacting the purchasing process of the young consumer and really the different ways that sustainability can be perceived. We've learned there's a lot of different definitions of what sustainability means to this consumer group. And while this young consumer is very educated, the internet is at the tip of everything they do, social media, we're seeing there's a lot of opportunity for retailers to have conversations with these customers because there's still a lot to learn in sustainability and fine jewelry. So I'm hoping a little bit later on, I'll get to share some more findings from that research with you guys.
Absolutely. We'll come back to that topic because I think it is one that's very important in the US and also in Europe. And I'm going to ask some questions to find out how important it is in China as well. But thanks for that, Jenna. That's a nice kickoff on the research that you've been doing. Much appreciated. So let's turn to China now. And please forgive my pronunciation, but Xiaohongshu, or more known internationally as Red, is China's Instagram. It's the top e-commerce platform for all things fashion and beauty. Now, Mu, if I can turn to you in Beijing, you've researched it for the number of younger jewelry consumers in China and their engagement with jewelry on social media. So could you tell us a little bit more about that? And thanks for the graphic that we've got up on screen now.
Yeah, sure. So we collect a lot of data from online and from different sources, from social media and e-commerce platform and other shoppers community, etc. So we put together this slide. It's kind of dense, so I'm going to just briefly walk through the slides. And you talk about you ask about the community, the young jewelry consumer population, and just some insights about it. From statistics or national statistics, there are about 360 million young people. By young people, we're meaning people around the age between 16 to 35 year old in China, right? And from our estimate, we collect data from e-commerce, and we found that it's about there are about 50 million young consumers that have shopped jewelry online. Right, so that's a very interesting statistic. Right? It's about it's a huge population, 50 million that have shopped online. So 1 in 6 of the young consumers in China. And in terms of the young consumers, right, young jewelry consumers, they are more, as you mentioned, they are more exposed to the digital platforms, and they're interacting with brands and shops in different channels. So taking Red, Xiaohongshu as an example, the platform itself has about 70 million daily active users, and 80% of them are young people. And out of this whole 70 million population, we are seeing that around 9 million of them within a year have talked about their shopping experience on jewelry products, right? And think about the social buzz they have posted. There are 1.4 million posts that have been created talking about jewelry shopping experience. So it's a huge number, and so that's what we're seeing. So it's becoming a phenomenon and becoming a I would say a large size, significant behavior or interaction change that we are seeing from our data.
Wow. 50 million people shopping for jewelry online in China in that age group. I mean, the numbers when we talk about China are always totally different in terms of the scale. So thanks for that. Thanks for that update. And feel free if you want to add any more information as we go on around that data that you've been collecting. Thanks, Mu. Han, if I can bring you into the conversation as well. For the young generations in China, from your research, do you think that jewelry plays, or what role, should I say, do you think jewelry plays in their expression of value and their expression of their own personality? Hello, Han? Is it me or have I frozen?
I think Han might be frozen over there.
Okay, it's not me. I wondered if everybody was frozen for me.
I was going to say everybody else seems to be moving.
I'm sure she'll be back in a minute. Han, can you hear us now? I can see you've turned your camera off. Can you hear us? I'll give you a few seconds and then we'll come back to you in a minute. I'm sure you'll be back online soon. Okay. Let's move on, shall we? And we'll come back to Han in a minute. I'm sure she'll be able to reconnect. China is the center of technology anyway, so I'm sure she'll be able to fix it. I'd like to think now about how the consumers are changing, these younger consumers, and what reaction is needed from the industry, especially from retailers. And let's turn to India now. And Savanka, welcome to the conversations today. Now, how, from your perspective, your family's been in the generation for many, many years, fourth generation for you now, congratulations. How do you think Indian jewelry consumers have evolved over the last 10 years? And what is Senco, your business, and other jewelry brands in India doing to cater to their needs and engage with them?
Right. So thank you, Edward. If you really, come to any of our stores and if you see that, the parents coming with the daughters, you could actually see the vast difference in terms of their attitude, in terms of the way they're dressing. The young consumers of India today, they are filled with much more, ambition. The aspirations are running very high. So thanks to the internet, if you really look at the way the consumers across the country, and even in India, a very interesting thing is happening. That is that India is divided into two parts. We call it India, which is the urban cities, where there are many more young population coming from various parts of the country to work. And there is something called a Bharat, the ancient India, which is the tier 2, 3, 4 cities of India. But because thanks to the internet, we are seeing that the culture and the information, the trends that are getting, exchanged. And rather than, traditionally, we know that India, we value our seniors, we listen to them, they have so much ancient tradition. But today what we see is that the senior generation is keen to learn and understand from the younger generation, thanks to technology, thanks to the changing trends. And that is where today, if you look at the mother and the daughter, you could actually see someone who represents an India which was 10 years from before, and today's India, a much more confident woman. Today, the woman of India is not just restricted to being a housewife. They are now going out, playing roles as husbands. I think the husbands are taking a backseat. We always worship, various goddesses in India. Now we are worshipping our women, and they are the ones who are dominating the markets more than the men of India. So that's how the change has been. Another interesting part is that while we talk of women, we see through platinum sales that the men are also becoming extremely fashion conscious. Our cricketers, our Bollywood stars, they are kind of the role models. And today it is not taken as a negative thing that the man is wanting to dress up, be fashionable, wear jewelry, wear chains and bracelets and rings, and show not only the showing of wealth, which is one part of it, but it is also about showing the individual style, that I am of this kind, So that is how I think we can see a very big change. And much like the data that was shared, as a retailer who have been there over 4 generations, 60, 70 years, the sustainability of the jewelry retail business or jewelry business will be to be at par with the needs of the consumer. And we very much like, I think, all over the world, we are extremely focused on what the young consumer of today want. And they want designs and jewelry which they can wear. You know, in India, jewelry is called a Sridhan, which means it is the saving and the wealth of the woman. In the weddings, they used to be gifted with jewelry from their parents. But today, I think the women are going out there, they are buying jewelry. They don't want to keep it in the bank lockers and their vaults. They want to use it. So sleek, trendy, lightweight jewelry, that's what today's women want. And platinum, diamond, the kind of clothes they are wearing is much more westernized. It goes with the kind of dressing that they wear, the occasions, the life has changed, lifestyle has changed. So this is how we look at the overall scenario.
That's wonderful. And I loved your expression about the older generation and the younger worshipping women. And I'm going to take that with me. That's a very strong trend. Let's keep that going. Han, are you back with us? Can you hear us okay? Can you join us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, that's wonderful. Nice. Thank you. That's cool. I knew you'd sort it out. So we were talking earlier about the research that you've been conducting with Kantar, working for many, many years now with PGI. And so from your research, what role do you think jewelry plays in their expression of value and also their expression of their personality?
Yeah, I have to say, by listening through all the panelists, what they have just shared, I think we actually see quite some commonalities, like in different markets, India, US, here in China. So we worked with PGI for quite a long time to really understand Chinese consumers, their values, their life attitudes, lifestyles, and then how does that actually reflect into their choice of jewelry. And it's quite interesting. I just want to share, without being very duplicated, I just want to share one thing, is that for the Chinese young consumers, the Gen Z, if we want to be specific, jewelry actually is a very important part of their outfit of the day. So it's not something they would avoid. It's not something they're going to feel shy about it. It is they recognize it's a very important part of the, OOTD, right? And it's not just only about matching the clothes or hairstyle, but it's also about matching with the occasion. So you could have a vacational style, you could have festival style. It's really about matching, what kind of occasion you're actually into. And then it's even also about reflecting their mood, the mood of their day. So we observed, their brands actually reflecting this kind of trend. So we see the emoji icon jewelries like earrings or ring, bracelets coming up to really tailor catering for that kind of needs. And also we also see the jewelry is being seen as an expression of the Gen Zs, their hobbies, their interests, and even to a certain extent, a reflection of their philosophical thinking or a way of self-reflection. So for hobbies or the interests, we see that, we have a local brand called Hefang. They actually launched a series using a Pac-Man. It was, I think it was a couple of years back, it was the Pac-Man, the big celebrating year. So they actually launched that series and it was a very popular piece. Yeah. And then obviously those subcultures, right? The street arts, that kind of, designs also quite getting popular. And as I mentioned, even for the philosophical thinkings, self-reflections, to really tell the people about who I am. So the young gen, there's a group of young gen actually using jewelries to show as a form of personal statement, or they see it as what we actually in the focus group, they tell us it's like a silent declaration of who I am. Right, so these are actually quite interesting trends we've seen.
Silent declaration of who you are. That's a nice way that jewelry can convey that message. So thanks for bringing that in. Pac-Man strikes again. Excellent. Good to hear. Let's get back. We jumped away from talking about how the consumer is changing and what's going to be effective. And so Suvankar had given his thoughts from India, but I'd like to go across to the US for Jenna, because of course the US and Silicon Valley specifically is the birthplace of the Instagram generation and social media. So how, from your perspective, has social media affected marketing for jewelry companies?
Thank you. I think this is a really great question. And yes, while millennials are the Instagram generation, I don't want to forget about our Gen Zers as the TikTok generation. I think I read an article the other day that 60% of TikTok users are Gen Z. So that's pretty significant. So let's talk a little bit about social media. Social media influencers are really key to the younger generation. There are dozens of strong jewelry influencers with large followings across all different channels. And in 2022, micro influencers are playing even a bigger role. And while they may have fewer followers compared to those mega and macro influencers, their audiences tend to be more engaged and more likely to take action. So at 360, we have done a lot of proprietary research to really understand the role that social media plays in the marketing to these younger consumers. The social media feed has a huge impact on their purchasing decision. And I actually wrote down a few points from some of the research we've done that I think make interest you, Ed. So 1/4 of younger consumers shop directly from social media feeds.
Wow, 25%, yeah.
Yep. And then 1/3 say they're highly influenced by social media when making a purchasing decision. And then lastly, 1/4 of young luxury consumers consider social media influencers and their brand, their product recommendations more important now than ever before. Wow. So moving forward for all jewelry companies, this should be considered when building a marketing strategy. These are huge considerations for the young jewelry consumer or the young consumer in general.
The only platform that I'm not on, maybe it's my age, is TikTok. So, I mean, is TikTok really driving jewelry purchasing, especially fine jewelry and especially platinum?
Yeah, I would not count TikTok out. It's becoming bigger and bigger every day, especially for Gen Zers and Gen Alphas. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, another platform I've got to dive into. Okay, thank you. Let's look at China a little bit. Mu, let's bring you into this question of how the jewelry consumers are changing in China. What do you see happening from your world?
Yeah, I'll focus on two types of changing. One is that how they interact, and again, focus just recapping and echoing what we are seeing right in the US and the rest of the world, is that they are more and more engaging on the digital world, right? The social platform and the live streaming platform. So the other one is that because they are so engaged and exposed, much of their behavior being exposed online, we can dig deeper to understand their purchasing behavior. So in that two parts, in terms of engagement behavior, we're seeing that more and more young consumers are talking. We say they are talking about jewelries, and in terms of the buzz, they are talking about hand jewelries, especially bracelet and rings, and also product made of platinum, gold, and jades are sparkling more and more discussion. So, for instance, the number of platinum-related notes on Xiaohongshu increase 20% every half year. This is enormous increase. People are talking more and more about it, right? So that's one. The other one is that in terms of engagement. Jenna talked about TikTok, right? The mirror version or the brother version of TikTok is Douyin, which is exactly the same company but different product in China. So in China's live streaming, actually merchants have already started selling their products, and by June this year, the purchase, the GMV, gross merchandise value of jewelry being sold in Douyin has grown 100% to about $2 billion US dollar, about 12 billion, 18 billion RMB, right? So it's huge growth, and live streaming e-commerce, right? Has become a large channel. Of course, the average value is lower than the mainstream on average, but has contributed 22% of the online sales of jewelry right? And so that's very interesting in terms of the engagement purchasing behavior, and because they are so exposed again so online. So when we dive deeper into the young jewelry consumers preference change, which I would like to echo, right? That more and more of these young consumers are I would say dare to express themselves and then use jewelry to express themselves. So in terms of data, we're looking at, we see that, just now, Han mentioned that, outfit of the day is kind of the key, use of the jewelry purchase and consumers, right? We see that products related to outfit of the day, as well as, business occasion usage, has grown, their revenue has grown about 40 to 80% year over year. And the other thing that we saw in terms of the preference change is that they are looking at unique design and ingenious design. So for example, a stackable and multi-wear products. Product that's related to that concept, and multi-wear stackable products has seen their revenue growing at 20% year over year. So I think the youngsters wants something that's unique, right? More expressive, as well as they are, I would say, they want more money to the buck, because multi-wear can be used at different occasions, right? So and lastly, in terms of the preference behavior, I would say, jewelry, we're seeing that, jewelry that are related to, health, and also, that related health have, extra growth, within the jewelry category. So things like, that symbolize, good health. Young consumers are seeing, getting growing preference on that. So we're seeing, changes in engagement behavior, also in purchasing behavior from our data.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. That's really good information, and I hope that's helpful for the listeners that really are wanting to connect. These consumers, they want to express themselves and they look for meaning in their jewelry. Han, if I can bring you in again, in terms of brand experience, what do you think is most appealing from your perspective to Chinese young people, and how does platinum or the platinum experience, how does that specifically resonate with them?
Yeah, when we talk about our brand experience, it's actually a very big topic, because for brand experience, it actually covers a range of touch points. So in our category, to be specific, it can be from the product design to wearing experience, to what we see the shopping experience, and to loyalty program, etc., right? So to attract brands and retailers, actually, they're doing quite a lot of different things to try to attract and better interact with the Chinese young consumers. We have observed some commonalities along the way. So I think one key important thing is that it is very important to making sure the young people, the young generations, are actually treated equally. Okay, I'll explain that later. What does it mean by treating it equally? Okay, and then it's also important to actually providing them with really fun engagements, so that to help them to express their individualities at the most. So that's the three commonalities we have seen. So let me explain by what do I mean by treated equally. So this is the one trend we've seen, that to better engage with Chinese consumers, the young consumers, the old classic condescending way of communication, or the educational like tone and manner on the piece of jewelry or on the metal actually doesn't really work anymore. Okay, brands has to adopt more of an equal kind of tone and manner, so peer-to-peer way with very lively expression, so that the young consumers can actually resonate emotionally and connect emotionally. So for example, I know like platinum is talking about tenacity, right? That's basically the core essence of platinum. But what does tenacity mean to Chinese young consumers? We actually conducted research with PGI to really understand that. Okay, so but the key learning is that it won't work if we just show them the numbers. How hard it is, how strengthened it is. It won't work. What really works is that you have to translate that into the occasions or into the daily challenges that young consumers are facing every day.
Like real life examples. Like giving them real life examples.
Yes, exactly. So that it can emotionally connect and resonate it. Right? So that's the one key learning about this communication. And about the product experience. Design is always the number one key buying factors here in China. We're like tracking that for many years. But what we've seen recently is that design is not just about a static design. Wearing it in a very playful way or have multi-purpose is very important. So we call this wearing experience or using experience. In a very playful using experience is important. It actually can make jewelry into a live metal. So transform the jewelry from a lifeless metal into a very interactive engagement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And DIY makes perfect sense. We actually have a very big online diamond jeweler. They create this mini program to really actually bring in the, it's actually for the wedding ring purchase. So they create this mini program having this all 3D tools for the couples to actually design the ring by themselves and also place order online. So you may say, wow, it's fine. It's like something we have seen before. The unique thing is that it's not just by finally can deliver a perfect ring for the couple. They also actually can create a very perfectly short video along with the product to show them how they actually, design the whole process. So it's a really good way for the young consumers actually, when they receive the video, they can post it online. Mu mentioned about, the Xiaohongshu, the red. It's actually a platform. It's a social platform. People can post it online and to show off, right? And shopping experience. It's no longer about the store, the static store. We've seen a lot of brands, jewelers, and also the luxury brands are trying to create this fun explorational experience in the store. So it's really to foster the purchase in a very artistic and interactive way.
Yeah,
so
great.
By doing that, it's not just about purely engaging with the consumers, but it's also about, they can experience this aesthetic value of the jewelry. And it's easier to command a premium, actually.
Well,
right?
that's a really important point, isn't it? The more you put in, the more effort you're putting into how you connect, the easier it is to sell, and perhaps the larger price point you can charge. That's really helpful about people selling into China. I'm quite interested to bring Suvanka back in for what are the effective techniques that he sees are working for the modern younger Indian consumer, and also specifically, we've been talking about social media, the different platforms that are used in China compared to the US. So what's been the role of social media in India from your perspective?
So, there are two ways of looking at it. One is that if we look at the internet users in India, we have more than 658 million internet users, one of the highest in the world. And the kind of subscribers we have to Instagram, more than 500 million users are in Instagram. And that has become the new magazine, and that is what the young women of today are trying to follow, what's the trends like, and that is what the various brands and are using to pass on the communication. That is on the use of social media. We have the Facebooks and Instagram, which are doing very well amongst the consumer that are there. On the other hand, what is it that we are doing to make the consumers engage with us? There are 3-4 pronged strategy that is playing together. One on the product and design, one is on the communication, one is on the technology, and engaging the customer as a brand. That is what the various brands are trying to do, working all the 4 things together. For example, like when it comes to product, let's take the platinum love bands. Now, what has happened is we have always known that a wedding ring was very important in the Indian culture, right? But now already there are so many young married couples who have maybe bought wedding rings during their wedding. Forget the young couples who will get married. That is one segment. But already so many millions of people who are married. So we said that the wedding rings in platinum is something like you can give it on your anniversaries also, and then you renew your vow of wedding. So that is how you kind of innovate on the product, on platinum and on the bond. Like what Han was saying, it's actually so true that what is the meaning of tenacity, what is the meaning of being strong, and that is what you do it through such a emotional event such as wedding. Second is the young women wearing jewelry, which is for the daily wear. So we had the Ivara, but the Ivara evolved into, we at Senco Gold and Diamond, we launched something called the Nova collection. Now the Nova in a way means something which is new. And those were very sleek, lightweight office wear designs in platinum. And then while you're designing the product and launching it, you're communicating it through the social media in a very modern and very trendy way. And that's where the consumers are getting engaged. Because as a retailer, how do you keep making the consumer coming back to you? Like, you will be happy to know that if we look at the platinum sales growth in our country for the last 3-4 years, it's always been growing for more than 50-70%, almost, because the base, India is a huge market. Gold has been a very integral part of the Indian culture. In weddings, you give so much of gold. But today, the young woman is saying that, no, I don't give me one jewelry which is of a very big value. Give me multiple pieces of jewelry so that I can wear at various points of time. And that is where lightweight platinum jewelry is coming in. Now, let's look at the men's jewelry. We call it the men of platinum. We have a famous cricketer called Saurav Ganguly. He's now the president of the cricket control, the board of cricket control of India. And, he is one of the brand ambassadors wearing platinum. Then there are young cricketers wearing platinum. And then when we have the cricket matches, the IPL, which has become as big as the football leagues of the US, or the basketball leagues, or the, even in bigger than, I would say, the English Premier League. So there we are promoting platinum amongst the men as consumers, and that's what's creating that traction. So this is how social media, and when something is being played on TV, similarly you're seeing the ads coming out on Facebook, on Instagram, on the various digital channels that people are following. So these 360-degree approach, newspapers unfortunately is losing its interest amongst the consumers. Everyone is trying to use media, the social media or digital for all kinds of information. And that's how we are working towards catering and engaging with the consumers.
Well, that's interesting. The print media is dying as a medium. I mean, Jenna, if I can bring you back in, do you see that in the US, the traditional media, the print, but also television and radio? Has it lost all relevance from where you sit? I mean, of course, one of the negative sides to all of that is it doesn't have the specific targeting capacity that social media provides. What do you see?
Yes, we're definitely seeing a push towards social media channels, especially for this younger generation. And really, we've done a lot of research to understand the brand values and the messaging that best resonates with the younger consumer across different social media channels, especially in this post-pandemic world. So much has changed just in the last few years. So we've really learned that half of this younger generation considers a brand mission statement and what a brand stands for to be most important for their purchasing decision, especially when purchasing on social media. They are highly influenced by brands that are honest, transparent, authentic, and that aligns with their values. So I think there's definitely a push for showcasing that through social media versus traditional channels.
Right, great. Let's. I can't believe the time flies so quickly. We're up on the hour already. So I did want to talk about future and trends before we found some time for some questions from the audience. And I know that some people are popping questions into the Q&A box. Jenna, if we can stay with you, you talked about sustainability earlier, or ESG, environmental, social and governance issues. How is that trend briefly impacting the fine jewelry industry in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a lot of work with the PGI USA team recently to understand where sustainability falls in the purchasing process right now. I think Han mentioned that design is top right now for China. It is a top consideration for the US as well. We're seeing quality, design, and metal type as the top three, but interestingly, fourth on the list is sustainability, which is huge this recently. Like that, I think 3/4 of US consumers said sustainability was an important part of their purchasing decision. So what does that really mean? What do these consumers think sustainability is? There's a lot of definitions. I mean, the first or the most prominent one we saw is that sustainability means that the piece is being produced responsibly and there's environmentally friendly practices in mind. The second is more focused on fair labor laws and human rights in mind. So there are some differences in what consumers think sustainability means in fine jewelry. What we do know is that half of younger consumers are now having conversations with their jeweler on sustainability related topics. So this is really impactful because yes, we've talked about it. Consumers are extremely educated, but their conversations are evolving and retailers need to be prepared to have honest, transparent, and authentic information. Like I mentioned earlier, that's what really resonates with this generation.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. And Mu, let's turn to China. You know, is sustainability or ESG or social responsibility, is it an important factor in China for the younger generation? And if not, what is the main driving trend that you see coming through that impacts and affects their purchasing decisions?
Yeah, so I would say I'll provide some data, right? Quantitatively, when we look into our data, we saw that there are very little buzz about environmental and sustainability. I would say most of the buzz is around again expressing themselves and also conspicuous consumption, right? I think it's kind of from what we learn is that it really depends on the maturity. It's a maturing process for consumers, right? They first satisfy the utility needs and then going up to a higher level of needs. So the data actually is speaking to that kind of pattern. So what we're seeing is that they're talking about again the conspicuous consumption kind of behavior topics. And so that's what we see from our data. Yeah.
Great, thank you. You ask a data guy a question, you get qualitative data. That's exactly what we need. Thank you very much. Let's round up a little bit as well here, thinking about the future. Han, how do you think young generations' views on love and relationships have changed? That was always a major driver for fine jewelry sales. Has it changed, and what are the implications for fine jewelry?
Yeah, it's actually changed quite a lot, or I would say evolved quite a lot over the past 15 years since I started working with PGI and on this specific topic. Our recent research on China Gen Z actually found out on love and relationship. What we found out is that they actually think love is actually with a lot of uncertainty. So it is easy to fall in love, but it may take much longer time to really confirm a relationship. So, and if they can't find the ideal one, it is actually okay to be single and celebrate who they are. And even when they in a relationship, they actually have a really strong awareness of being myself or being themselves. And when they move into the marriage, the other part, the significant others, the marriage is really about having a life partner or a teammate so that they can grow together for the rest of their life, rather than being a simple companionship as their parents would usually think. So the whole idea of a love and relationship really evolves. And that has a huge implication on jewelries and fine jewelries, to be specific. So first of all, love is not necessarily just associated with romance only. It can mean something else. It can be mean love for yourself. So we have seen actually opportunities for young independent women buying diamond rings, big ones actually, for themselves to show self-esteem and respect. Right, and for the wedding rings, the wedding jewelry sets, we actually observed the trend of having a customized wedding series to highlight individualities, but in the same time also have sense of matching as a pair. Right, so the pairing set that we discussed with the PGI, the pairing set, we've seen they have inject special meanings. So it's not just about being a couple, right? It has a special meaning to it. So to really kind of push for the pairing sales. Another interesting trend, it is actually happening. I'm not sure it's going to be big or not, is that what we've seen, the relationship is beyond romance. The relationship is extended to human relationship. So it's not, it can be, the relationship with your friends, and it can be beyond human beings, can be your pets. Actually, pet economy is booming here in China. So we've seen brands actually providing matching jewelry sets for the pet owners and their pets. So it's actually a very interesting one. I don't know whether it's going to be big or not, but it's an interesting one.
That is a really interesting trend. You told me about that the other day when we were talking, and I've been thinking about it. There's a whole new market there for dog and cat jewelry and perhaps other pets that people have. And I'm reminded of the famous story of La Pellegrina pearl that Elizabeth Taylor owned, and it is reputed that her dog, it was in a dog collar, and it accidentally chewed the valuable and very famous La Pellegrina pearl. So you have to be careful. But thank you for bringing those insights. Suvanka, can I finish with you for your thoughts on the future in China? In India, and future specifically as you see it for platinum jewelry and the role that it will play in the Indian industry?
See, a lot of ideas that Han spoke of, it really is as much as important and applicable to India in terms of the definition of love and romance. And now marriages is not just about romance, it is about mutual respect and friendship. And that makes things sustainable, when there is a mutual respect for each other. And I think that's what we need to take when we talk of sustainability, is that we respect our environment, we respect our Mother Earth, and we do things keeping the long-term relationship in mind. That is one. The second part, which I feel beyond that, is the impact of digital marketing and digital media has impacted. But, awareness, content creation, and engagement with the young consumers, I think that will continue to happen. We have to build on making aspirational imagery using the various digital mediums. And like in your last presentation that you spoke of the metaverse, I'm of the firm believer that if we really look at the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, they would be getting more used to the concept of the metaverse. Their experience in the digital world will be Web 3.0 and the using of blockchains and NFTs, and those will be the new interesting aspects. And also kind of how do you make the jewelry, renting it out, making it peer-to-peer and sharing it with the community. Those will be a very futuristic concept. Maybe 5 years from now, we could just see things like those happening. People are anyway exchanging jewelries. 20 to 25% of the jewelry that is bought from our stores is exchanged against the old jewelry that they have. So just imagine that if that is the case, that is, I don't know about China, but it's very much happening in India. And so they're exchanging gold and they're buying platinum. They're exchanging platinum, buying diamond and things like that, because gold, diamond, platinum is considered as good as money. So it's how do you, make it digital, make it, things which can be more shared and more affordable and accessible to the larger crowd. Those will be what we will look upon. And ultimately, I think creativity and design is important. But if you look at the world today, while we are all talking, see at the human level, I think human beings are all the same across the world. But there is this identity that is happening I am India, someone is proud of China, someone is proud of being a part of the US as a community. So the tribal part, so design has to be a blend of the tradition that we belong to and the modern world, and an open liberal approach and a united approach. I think that's how we need to blend tradition and modernity, and that's going to be the future of jewelry.
Thank you. And I want to highlight, some of your jewelry that I saw on your social media where you were, we're using different colors of gold, rose, and yellow, along with platinum to convey the colors of the Indian flag.
Yes. Thank you, Edward, for saying that. This 15th of August was the 75th year of independence for India. And we all know 75 is a number, we call it Platinum Jubilee. We associate it with platinum. So what we did is we tied up with PGI, and we inspired from the Indian flag of orange, white, and green. So we launched a range we call the Tria Platinum, and we used the rose gold, white, which is platinum, and green gold, and we launched a whole new collection so that we could identify with our nation and also make the product popular among the young generation. So that's what we did.
So I encourage everybody to check it out on Senko's social media or on their website. It's interesting designs. As always, we bust through time, but I've been really enjoying the conversation, because especially from the different perspectives. But can we have a final thought, each of you, very quick fire if I can? I'll come to each of you with the same question. If anybody fell asleep in the middle of this, God forbid, let's give them one salient point that they can take away at the end. So what single action point can listeners take to better connect with a younger consumer? In no particular order, let's start with the US. Jenna, can I ask you first?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I think one of the richest takeaways is that half of young US consumers consider a brand's mission statement or what the brand stands for as an important part of their purchasing decision. And therefore, this should be communicated in any marketing strategy moving forward. This insight is part of a larger research set that we do at 360. The full report is actually available on our website, or if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to share it with you. But there's some really interesting takeaways about the US consumer and how to connect with them.
Great, thank you. And Jenna, if you want to send that to me, I'll make sure that it's in the follow-up email to all the participants as well. That'll go out.
Absolutely, thank you.
So same question, if I can, to Han. What single action point can listeners take to connect with younger consumers?
If I may, I would say build really strong emotional bondings with the Chinese young consumers. No condescending tone, not educational, more sincere, and peer-to-peer communication, and always engage with them in a fun and interesting way.
Thank you. Perfect. Moo, same question to you if I can.
Get on social media, get on live streaming. You'll get millions of fans, and you can leverage it to connect to your customers.
Get on Red, get on Douyin, get on there and enjoy creating content. Okay, thank you, Moo. Excellent. Suvanka, last from you, same question.
My thoughts would be that, put on as much information on the social media. Today, we see the young consumers at times are more knowledgeable and they do more research than the people who are selling at the store. So they are smarter, they're more intelligent, and they know what they want out of their life. So we as jewelers need to respect them and make sure that we fulfill their aspirations and their needs. That's what it is.
Thanks. Jen, we started with you. Can I finish with you with your thoughts on one single action point to take?
Sure. I think, everyone's talking about the practices, and I think the building the relevance and the desire among the young consumers is definitely the key to connect with them. But it has to be translated into product strategy. And also to the brand's communications to engage with them. And for Platinum, for example, any brands have established a brand equity or has a long history for the young consumers. Innovation in design, innovation in products, innovation in engagement and communications are very important to communicate and connect with them. And that is the point that we have been working with our partners on and in different market as well.
Great, thank you. Now we do have a couple of minutes for some questions. There's a nice one here from Martin. He asks, what is your opinion on young consumers in big markets like China who buy jewelry online at Amazon with man-made, lab-created stones for small amount of money? Is it a threat to the industry? We always try to avoid the lab-grown diamond questions, but I think this is a lab-grown, lab-created stone in general. So we're talking about lower value jewelry. Is it a threat to the industry? Han, can I start asking that one to you?
It's actually a very good question. I think Mu, because he's actually following on the red, so he would have a better idea on all the social sentiment on that one. But what we have seen is that yes, young consumers are buying lower price jewelries, but they do see the difference between low price jewelries versus the fine jewelries. And as I shared before, the fine jewelries still have a very important role to play in their life. So actually very interesting, for today's marketing event I'm actually attending, we are talking about building high quality brands here in China. And there's one important aspect on it. On this VUCA time now, it's not just about jewelry. It's actually about the general consumption in general. Chinese consumers actually are pursuing not just price, but high value, high quality, high value for money items, meaning that they would pay certain amount of money, but the perceived value, if it's higher than the money they pay, they will pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the fine jewelry, it's the same. And we talk about fine jewelry has a role to play in their life. So yeah, it coexists, but at least for now, we can keep monitoring that. For now, I don't think it's a big threat.
So can I put that, you mentioned Mu might have some insights, the data guy. What does your data tell us, Mu?
We have to run some algorithms, so we will get back to you, later on. But just something to talk about, to share, right? We again, I think one thing that we're seeing in China in terms of the consumer in general, and it's also applicable to jewelry, is that the consumer is become more segmented, and they are segmenting also their individual needs. So as Han mentioned, that they are looking at fine jewelry as well as value to the bucks jewelry, right? So we're also seeing similar trends. The growth is across different level of products. So 1/3 of what's being sold, on Douyin e-commerce are lower priced stuff, but then also we're seeing growth on fine jewelry. So I say it's not a zero-sum game. What we're seeing here is the pie entirely is getting higher, bigger and bigger, and people, each category, different types of product, they are growing because of the larger and more sophisticated, more segmented consumer group in China. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you very much. It's 18 minutes past. We've had a really engaging chat. I know a lot of people have had to leave and have put their apologies in the chat. I'd like to finish perhaps by turning to Gaetano, if you have any closing remarks for us this afternoon or this evening, or where you are in Milan this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ed. Let me first thank the speaker, all of them. I have truly enjoyed listening their presentation and consideration, which have been to me very, very, very inspiring in several sense. Obviously, in the sense of the action that CIBJO is constantly doing, in the sense of the action that has to be done more than what has been done up to now in several directions again, such as sustainability, such as social media, such as new way of sales, such as new marketing, let's say new frontier. If I have to make all my comments, I think that for the next hour we'll be still here and we do not have this time. But I can see the number of friends that are still on, and I want to thank them for their contribution. And please send us your comment or email or whatever you think is most appropriate, because we are very committed also to the future of our industry. And the future of our industry, I believe it will be from one side challenging, from the other side very satisfying, because all these new generations, starting from 2007, when the iPhone was launched, well, I can see my one of my grandchildren at the primary school that was making something around the sustainable development goals. So 9-10 years old, talking about this. So I can imagine what's happened in 3, 4, 5 years time. So yes, we have to take care of our young generation, because our young generation are our future. So I stop here as a comment, because otherwise, as I said, I will speak for 1 hour, and not the case. But thank you very much, all of you, speakers and friends attending this webinar, and naturally to Ed and Stephen for their great organization. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Gaetano, for hosting all of this through Sibjo and all the work that you do. Thanks also to my colleague Steve, diligently helping in everything that we're doing. Thank you all to the panelists, to Jenna over there in New York. We wish you a great rest of your day. Your evening is just getting started there, Savanka, so I wish you a nice dinner and a nice restful rest of your evening. For Han, for Mu, and for Zhenzhen, you can go to sleep now, put your head on your pillow, and feel that you've done a very good day's work, and many people are very appreciative of your time this evening. So thank you to you all. We welcome you back. From my perspective, it just leaves me to let everybody know that Jewelry Industry Voices will be back. We will be live and direct in person at Vicenza Oro show next month in Italy. We're going to be having 2 seminars. Yes, you did hear me correctly, 2 in one day on Sunday, the 11th of September. Please do come and join. We'll be talking about how we can better connect with women for diamond jewelry. There's a key shift taking place there, away from bridal and into women's self-purchase. And also how we can look at the supply chain regulations that are now part of the industry. Think RJC and other sustainability standards. So please do join us for that. It'll be live streamed on vicenzaoro.com. And if you are attending Vicenza Oro, I would strongly encourage you to do so if you are thinking of doing that. We will be there live at the seminar theatre on Sunday from 11 a.m. Please do come along and say hello. We love doing this in person with you. We like doing it online, but we really like connecting in person. So please do come and say hello. To all of you, I just encourage you to stay connected to Sibjo through our social media and also through all the communications through the mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list, please make sure that you connect through to get these communications. Thank you to all of our sponsors, especially PGI today, but also for the rest of our series, to the Natural Diamond Council, Uni Diamond, and also Paspali. I think that's everything I needed to say. And last but not least, thank you to the audience for being here and making it all worth our while. We much appreciate it. Wishing you a very nice rest of your evening, and take care and be safe. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.